going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League. We are coming at you live with Week 3 and a featured match from Demacia, where peak performers are taking on CCG Glorp with a freshly revamped roster. I'm Gordo. I'm joined on the cast tonight by TDS. TDS, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm excited. I feel like I haven't been here in a while, even though we were here last week and it went out quite well. So I'm hoping that this week is going to be pretty similar. We have two teams that are quite good and should be quite exciting to see. And I hope that we're going to get a lot going.
Absolutely. Here, hope we're going to be able to get your camera back as well here at TDS, but it's all right. We're going to get off of our faces and into the team rosters to start things off. Let's get on to CCG Glorp first with their freshly revamped roster for week number 3. This will be familiar to NACL fans. It is going to be Zamudo, Vacan, Mini, Scary Jerry, and Zyko from top to bottom.
Yeah, of course, the peak of developmental teams, right? Like, this is a team full of developing talent. It's people that we have never seen before, with Zamudo, Scary Jerry, and Psycho coming in and trying to fill up on the, I would say, shoes of the previous members. But this revamp of CCG Glorp kind of changes up the expectations that we have. Like, there's still players that you can try and see develop, but when you have the winning bot lane and possibly best bot lane in NACL, and then one of the most improved players on your team, your expectation should be at the very least top of the group and also top of playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a massive improvement to what the expected result should be for this team coming in on the week, with not only 3 really high-level NACL players, but 3 players who all have so recently and have had so much experience together. Definitely going to make them a dangerous team here in the ACL. But their opponents bringing plenty of experience in their own right, perhaps even surpassing them in experience in some ways. It's going to be a peak performers show off this roster here in just a second. It's got Alorum, Kitsuo, Robbie Bob, Sagewabe, and Dardock here. Not going to talk about that substitute. I don't know who that is, but these guys definitely coming together, definitely a squad who has played competitive League of Legends for perhaps longer than just about anybody.
Yeah, we have, like, if one side has probably the best current NACL bot laner, one of the most improved top laners, we have on the other side LCS veterancy, pretty much, in peak performance, with Dardock and Alorum having gone through multiple LCS rosters, having gone through multiple Academy and NACL rosters, and then players that have been a mainstay for the tier 3 stage. I think the main, like, a rookie, I would say, I don't know if I would call him a rookie, but the main, like, newish guy, picture or person involved in peak performers is Sagewabe, which performed quite great when we looked at the previous tournament, the relegation tournament, on the pool star roster, the actual pool star roster, and he was doing quite good. So I think this team, with the players that they have and the idea that they can try and pull off with Sagewabe, I think it can be a really interesting roster as well, and should be also a contender for top of group and top of playoffs.
Yeah, no, it is going to be interesting to see Dardock back in that support role. I spent a lot of summer talking about how much more dangerous this guy was getting back into his home role of jungle. Now he's going to be making the swap back to support for the Aegis Champions League. But having Kitsuo no pushover in the jungle in his own right, and we all hear the complaints every season about the support quality that's available out there. So, you know, those really top tier supports, they're in short supply and high demand. So Dardock filling that role himself on this squad, a little bit of a late addition to the ACL as well, coming together at just about the last moment and making themselves a really strong spot and a really strong argument to be one of those tier 2 teams. They've struggled so far, though, when we've gotten to see them. It has been a 0-1 start for the peak performers. They got 2-0'd by Chaotic Solar in week number 1, and now we're coming back. This is just their second match here. They were on bye for week number 2, so let's see how they've adapted in the 2 weeks since that first match.
Yeah, it's going to be an important difference coming in for them. And then when you look at the other side, right, the CCG Glorp team, that there was not that high expectations. It was looked at as a developmental roster, like we said before, the additions that they just did this week, and they are currently with a 1-1 standing. Obviously, they will probably, and the matches that they lost were against ISU, which crucially is the team that is currently 2-0. So now if it goes into a head-to-head situation, right, the ISU would technically have the advantage. But it also means that if CCG Glorp ends up winning all their matches here, they're going to be one game, at the very least, behind the number 1 team. So that already kind of sets the expectations that they are going to be at the very least top 2. But apart from expectations, draft has already started, and the strong champions are already getting banned away.
Yeah, and then worth also pointing out the big new addition is specifically going to be Scary Jerry and Zyko. They've run Zamudo both weeks so far on CCG Glorp, so they've gotten some reps with him and Vacant and Mini all together. The bot lane's going to be the big new change here, and in a patch where bot lane's not quite what it used to be, so we'll see how Scary Jerry has adapted to the patch as a player that you really associate with some of those traditional marksman picks and maybe a little bit less with some of the shenanigans that we've seen going on down there over the course of the last couple of weeks of competitive play. Now, getting a little bit of a tamp back up this patch too, so we will find out just how much that has helped them on this most recent patch, getting a little bit of more strength in those items. The Scion going to be the final ban away for CCGG. Peak Performers taking away the Aurora, the Yone, the 2 solo laners that have just been running amok at Worlds.
Understandably so. And then lastly, the Ashe, one of the stronger supportive sort of AD carries that is left, has a lot of value, a lot of consistent damage, and I think for someone like Scary Jerry gives a lot of lane dominance potential to just run against the enemy bot lane. So I understand the ban away there. I will say though, I feel like with Scary Jerry we say everything about the bot lane meta changing and all that, as I say that the 6 going to come as a pick, but it's one of the champions that Scary Jerry has played as well in the season in the NECL, and he performed quite well with it. I think he is a player capable of trying to alternate at the very least with some of those champions in the bot lane, and when it comes to AD carry, like he can go for whatever and it's going to turn out really, really great. But I also think, and what I like from the 6 pick here is the enabling that they go for with Psycho now, because Psycho is one of the best engaged supports in the NECL. I would say on the cusp of being one of the best supports as well, potentially for LCS. So I think that allowing for him to roam around, get an engaged support, and just make plays happen would be one of the best things for CCGG.
Completely agree here. Really dangerous on that Ziggs pick, and in a full Fearless format, being the team that gets to snag this Ziggs on a patch where those traditional marksmen aren't quite as good, and there is so much value placed on it, is going to be a huge start for CCGG here. Peak Performers, though, they decide the Ashe is the more important ban. They give it away, and they're going to counter with the Jhin, one of the few traditional marksmen that folks are willing to grab onto, and they're going to take that Jarvan for Kitsuo as well, an old classic for him. The Poppy going to be a great counter for it, though. Did just get a little bit of stats shifted around, a little bit stronger in the jungle now than it was previously, so perhaps a pick for Vacant, perhaps a pick for Alorum, perhaps a pick for Zyko. I still think all flexes could be viable.
Yeah, but now with the Udyr, I feel like we're kind of taking away a little bit of the flex in the top lane, and I think it stays into the jungle and the support. I will comment quickly though, I think the Jarvan, yes, it looks like a jungle, but we have to remember, it is Dardoch playing support. And I wouldn't put it away from him to just take the Jarvan bot lane if he thinks that maybe works out for them and they want a better matchup for Kitsuo. And one thing that also seems interesting here, they didn't ban away the Kindred, but with the Leona Hover and potential pick, I think that takes away from the potential pick as well for a jungler, a different jungler for Kitsuo. And I wanted to mention, Kindred was still available, and Kindred is one of Kitsuo's champions that I think a lot of people end up looking out for him quite a bit.
Definitely here. So now that the Leona's been snapped up, what are they going to look to take away in the second phase? Solo laner is going to be the name of the game here. CCGG, the fun thing is they could flip both of these picks into solo lanes already. Udyr or Poppy could both go top. The Ziggs could even go mid if that's where they want to end up allocating things. I think bot lane is far and away going to be the most likely, but makes the Peak Performers bans here a little bit tougher. They're going to take that Tristana as a potential flexible mid lane marksman to give you some of that AD damage. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Yasuo bite it here too. It's not necessarily a pick that I super associate with Mini, but it is one of those other straight AD mids that it feels like people like right now.
Yeah, and with the banaways or the bans that are coming through here, I think the last remaining potential AD mid laners that you would think of would be that Yasuo. I think maybe the Lucian as well, if you want to play it there, depending on certain matchups as well. The Tristana ends up getting banned away, so that seems like an option that it's not going to be that possible anymore, and the Yone as well gets banned away. So you're getting kind of pigeonholed into what the remaining AD champions for mid lane are, and also thinking about the Udyr already getting picked, right? And the fact that the Poppy can be flexed to Udyr as well, you're kind of putting yourself into an even smaller spot to try and get an AD champion. It feels like you can now no longer go for an AD champion in top lane, and you're going to be forced to going something in the mid lane, and that something feels like it's going to be Lucian, Ezreal, or another AD carry that I don't remember, or the Yasuo.
Yeah, I'm not going to fully discount that it could be Udyr top Poppy support, Udyr jungle Poppy support, and then you can get your AD top laner still, stuff like the Camille and the Aatrox, super highly valued right now. But definitely, I mean, that would be a little interesting to me, just to be willing to take those two picks into those two roles. I would be guessing that the Udyr is going to be for Zumudo. That's a classic pick for him, and one that he's been very, very good at, perhaps one of the best at this level of play, the tier 2, tier 3 level. The Renekton now being looked at for Alorum. This is a meme pick for him. Okay. He is going to take it. The forbidden technology, the Alorum Renekton, it's appeared.
He just wants to take it out of the way. He don't wants to see it anymore after this game. Thanks to Full Fearless, we won't see the Renekton anymore. So I think that has to be the idea. That being said, it does have some lane priority that you can play with, and then later on the game, you're going to be able to lock down the mobile champions like the 6 much easily. The Poppy will be a wrench in your attempt at doing that, but it probably going to work like that. And the Swain, the newly worked on Swain actually, or I'm not sure if actually the changes to the Swain already are already on the current patch. I will need to check quickly, but Swain wasn't necessarily that bad, but he wasn't played in general, and a lot of his reasoning for not being played is that he did lose out on certain matchups in the mid lane that weren't that great, and then also I feel like people just shy away from the champion because it was so long ago that they played the champion in general. But against this short range sort of composition that is going to engage onto you, I think that Swain is not a bad option. And I actually forgot the Smolder. Yeah, Smolder mid could also work out. This is probably a Swain support.
Yeah, the Swain I would think definitely.
Or Swain top, actually.
Could be Swain top. I think it's probably Udyr top, Swain support. The Swain changes are not live, by the way. I did go and check. So, and I don't know. I mean, this is an interesting one to see coming on through. I've got to guess it's probably for Zyko. I'm looking at the Glorp solo queue accounts, and I'm not seeing a lot of Swain play anywhere, really, to speak of. So it's going to be cool to see where this champion ends up going the way. Going to be the last pick for Robbie Bob in the mid lane. A classic for him, and one that should be able to lane very well up against this Smolder, who's more than likely going to be its opponent here. So definitely an interesting draft coming through from CCGG, and one that's going to need this Smolder to scale up and kind of be its sole source of AD damage.
Yeah, and I think that the main thing that kind of puts me like in a really weird spot has to be the Swain, and not because it's bad. Once again, I think the champion does have its strengths, and especially against a short range composition, the only like high range that they have is the Hui. The Jhin has to go close to be able to deal a lot of their damage apart from Carding Call. Then the Renekton has to go in, Jarvan has to go in, Leona has to go in. That idea for the Swain I understand. The issue here is that not only did you kind of hypercharge yourself with magical damage, right? Because you have the Swain, the Udyr, and the 6. 3 magical damage sources already in your team, and you're pretty much banking on the Smolder having a great game, because if not, magic resistance will just destroy your composition here. But also, you're also kind of playing around a mid-game kind of power spike, but at the same time not able to maximize your value at that time, because Smolder will not be active at that point, or at the very least not to what we expect. Same for the 6, you want to have at the very least 2 items with him, and I think that the power spike for Swain is going to be a bit earlier for that, and that may take away from the idea of the composition in general. But I can see it working as well, depending on if certain things go well.
Yeah, I could definitely see it working out. It's just going to be a little bit different than what we have traditionally come to associate with these players. Whereas peak performers, I mean, they're running a very traditional composition here. The Jhin, you know, obviously kind of taking a little bit more of a utility-based direction for the AD carry coming here for Sagewabe out of Peak Performers, but that's a style that we know that he could play. We got Dardoch on the engaged support. Renekton for Alorum. Listen, we've gotten to, it's a rare pick for certain, but I know he said he's like had Renekton in the pocket for forever, and he just never really sees the best reasons to play it. He's more of a tank guy in his own right, but this time around going to be piloting it and going to have a really strong early game jungler as well in the Jarvan for Kitsuo, to where I wouldn't be surprised to see them pay some visits up top. I mean, traditionally, Zamudo's been a player who you can definitely catch pushing up a little too far and try to punish. He's really cleaned that up over the course of the summer, though, so will be interesting to see if Peak Performers try to go up there and kind of test a little bit of that determination and test a little bit of that willingness or unwillingness to over-aggress.
But looking into it a little bit, right, into that idea of how Zamudo will play this game out, I think it also needs to be seen what will happen with the rest of the lanes, right? Like, we to a certain degree know the known quantity that is the bot lane for CCG Glorp, right? Like, we know the capabilities of both Psycho and Scary Jerry down there in the bot lane. And obviously, Zamudo has been able to clean up some of his performance here and there, which has allowed for him to be notably one of the best top laners in the NACL. But I think one of the main things here that we need to see for CCG Glorp has to be the fact that early game doesn't look like it's going to be that active for them, right? You have a 6 that can wave clear, can push, but doesn't necessarily want to make a lot of plays happen early on. You have a Nudir that can try and win lane as well, but he can also be exploited because of how far in he can push. And then how much attention will the jungler try and put all around the lanes, right? Like, at the moment, our expectation is that it's the Poppy jungle. But can the Poppy jungle be a problem for the Renekton? Can she make plays happen? Or can she try and force something on the other side of the map while Zamudo is sucking this pressure? This game really is going to go a lot into... Okay, there goes everything that we were saying because Poppy is going support. So yeah, they did send Zamudo with the top lane swing. And I like this. This does give them much more control in the top lane. Makes it more volatile because if Zamudo dies, it's a little bit more difficult. But it, at the very least, gives you a winning lane that you can try and take advantage of if Zamudo doesn't get exploited.
Yeah, wow. I mean, the Swain Change is not even live here. And Zamudo just busting it out, showing off a little bit of tech in the top lane. Love to see this out of him. He's always been a guy that's willing to play some of these spicier picks up here.
Yep.
And really associate him with some of those AD top laners as well. And now going to be playing the Swain here. We got a Riven out of him last time he was on the Salt Mine stream. So they've definitely gotten their fair share of Zamudo playing some of these interesting spicy picks. And a lot of eggs in the Fi mini basket is what really stands out to me in this comp. Now perhaps even more so that Zamudo's kind of off the front line a little bit. You'll be pseudo front line on the Swain, but you know, not really just staying up there tanking everything. Probably not your primary engage either. It's going to be risky for Fi Mini against all this dive and all this burst damage to try to stay alive on the Smolder. And as the youngest player on this team, it'll be interesting to see how he's going to be able to perform.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting angle to try and put Fi Mini into. Hyper carry position pretty much here because you're going to be the sole physical damage dealer and also on one of the best hyper carries in the game right now with the smaller late game damage. But it's going to be important seeing how the team sets him up for success, right? If you're not able to find that angle, you're going to be in a tough position in general as Fi Mini. And then you have to look at what BBQ Chicken can also do because you have to see the jungler not only moving around the map but setting up the team for success in multiple situations. Which lane you want to prioritize? Is Zamudo going to be just a bait in general, or will he be one of the points that you want to focus early on? I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered by CCG Glorp, and to a certain degree, same for Peak Performers. We are kind of putting a lot of like a pressure or a mindset into what Peak Performers can do early on, but we need to remember that they come off a note first week loss, right? Like they didn't win any games so far. Obviously they played only one, but they haven't won anything. So it's important for them to be able to find that bounce back. And if they are able to do it, I think CCG Glorp can be a good test to that as well.
I think so as well. Reminder to get your predictions in here. I think there's only a couple seconds left, but you could predict with your channel points on who you think is going to win this match. I'll remember to give an earlier reminder for game number 2 if you missed out there. But going to be an exciting game at number 1, and we're gonna at minimum have 2 games. Fingers crossed for 3 here tonight. I think CCG Glorp will probably come in and by default as the favorites, but I like this composition for the Peak Performers, and I think if a couple of things go their way early, if they make sure that some of these side lanes that are so hot right now don't manage to just blow them out and run away with it, I could definitely see this Peak Performers comp pulling it together and making the upset happen.
And if it happens, could be quite an interesting dynamic for the group, because apart from Illinois, it would mean that everyone is kind of 1-1, 1-2. Like, there's a lot of teams here that have already collected a victory. Only the kind of expected teams are down on the 0-1, and after today we're going to have also multiple teams that, or after today we'll have multiple teams now that will be able to get closer in this group. So I think that this just makes a really fun dynamic in general, and also puts Illinois on the top place already, which it's something that we weren't expecting coming in, but certainly once again makes the group quite fun.
Absolutely, and as you bring that up, both of these teams sitting in this competitive group with already one loss apiece. A loss here for either of them will push them into the negative, will give them their second loss so far, and you're competing for top 4 in a group that has 5 really competitive teams in it. ISU, Polestar, and Chaotic Solar are no pushovers. Chaotic Solar already having taken down the Peak Performers. It's going to be very difficult if you drop to 2 losses this early in the season. You're going to have to tighten things up really fast. You're going to lose a lot of the leeway that you may have assumed that you had as a tier 2, tier 3 team coming into the beginning of the season. As before you know it, the race is going to get really tight, and you're really going to need to find those wins up against the other contender teams if you want to make it into those playoffs and keep your season going into top 16 territory.
Yeah, and a big part of that always comes with which teams are you going to be facing at the end of the split or at the end of the season to try and salvage your season, right? Like, if you're in a run for playoffs, you're between 4th and 3rd place, and your last 2 opponents are Peak Performers and Polestar, let's say, for example. That makes a completely different scenario than if you have to go against someone like the Agency or CCG Glorp, to put into quotes as well, before we were going into this matchup, right? So, like, the context matters as well, and it's important to rack up victories before you face the top opponents, because you don't want to define your season against someone that is really difficult to go against.
And with that said, let's get on to Summoner's Rift for game number 1. CCG Glorp taking on Peak Performers CCG versus PP in game number 1 of our Fearless Best of 3.
And I'm not sure if it was last week, but I think last week we did have some level 1 shenanigans, which were kind of fun to see. So I hope that we get a repetition of that and we see people dying early on, because it's fun.
Yeah, definitely would be an interesting level 1 angle. There's a couple of champions on either side that could do a little something. I think I maybe faintly favor CCG Glorp. The Swain can be really powerful at level 1. The Udyr can be really powerful at level 1. The Poppy can definitely be threatening as well. And champions like Jarvan really want to have that combo available, be able to get the most out of them. So it does look like everybody's just going for the basic spread, though. Maybe a delayed invade from Vacant and Phi Mini in and around this mid lane ramp could be in the cards, but like everybody wants to play just a little bit safer, kick things off. A little rune check-in on Zamudo's Swain. He's going for the Conqueror, so really looking to kind of amp up that team fight damage later on in the game. Interesting to me, because you can really get a lot done, especially up against a melee. If you take that Summon Airy, it's so easy to proc, because it's so easy to just hit your little Force Lightning, your Q, over and over again, but opting instead for that extra damage and sustain later on.
Yeah, it's going to be on that prolonged fighting from the Swain, and also the prolonged just sustain that you're able to find. Now, it makes for a dynamic in the top lane that as Zamudo you can try and win, but he started with the E, so that means that you pretty much already lost a little bit of your lane advantage. Yeah,
I like the E start. It lets you start stacking early. It can definitely be dangerous, but if Laura manages to dodge more of them, all right, the pull there, going to get his first of his Demonic Ascension stacks, and that is going to make it just a little bit tougher for Alorum. Those are all permanent max HP, so going to be a little bit like the Grasp of the Undying mini game here, as Zamudo just looks to snag some of those any chance he gets.
Also, and interesting to quickly point out, by the way, just a little bit on the rest of the map, only 2 wards were positioned inside of the enemy jungle, and those come from the side of CCG Glorp. Like there was no vision of Chain inside of the enemy jungle by peak performers, and this may mean that maybe there's a chance that they are able to spot Dardoch before he comes for a gang. And damn, Robbie Bob.
Really good trade there from Mini, just managing to get some of that extra damage through onto Robbie. I figure he's just landing the Achus to be able to get ahead this early on, and has that little extra sustain, that little extra tankiness from going into Resolve Tree primary. So he's doing a solid job here, laning up against Robbie to start things off. Meanwhile, we'll be continuing to pay close attention to this top side. Once Zamudo hits level 3, he has the full combo available, and then you're at risk of a real rough trade if you do get snagged by that E. So it means you're going to be going right into the Vision of Empire, taking the full brunt of that, giving 2 stacks over to the Swain. He's going to heal a whole bunch. He can really be a bit of a menace in lane if you let him be. That's why it's important for Aloran to be using that slice and dice to keep it. This is Robbie Bob. Flashes in, thought he had an angle, but Mini just sidesteps it.
Yeah, but I think that with that health bar, an angle looks like a little bit difficult, and now Robbie Bob playing an immobile mage like the Way is not necessarily a champion that you consider someone, fight top lane.
Yeah, Vaken's arrived. It's a 2-on-2. Kitsuo going to be the stronger early game champion here, but Zamudo's got plenty of gold in his own right. You got to back up your junglers, Zamudo. Going to be a flash forced out of Vaken. Zamudo going to escort him out to safety. But a nice blow of a summoner spell from Kitsuo there as he finds his opponents in the jungle.
Yeah, the weird thing is that I'm pretty sure they were expecting that they were going to disengage, and that's why Zamudo didn't try and go for anything beforehand. But when they saw that they were committing, that's when BBQ had to flash away, and then when Zamudo decided that he was going to commit as, okay, Mini now forced to flash away, but you can look at the health bars. Both mid laners quite low, and pullback not close enough to turret.
Didn't have the Vision of Empire. If he'd had that ready, a flash in from Aloran. He's looking for the solo kill. Zamudo flashes away, survives with a sliver, and takes down the Croc. Zamudo off to an early lead.
You know what? That's a Doran's blade diff. Oh, Zamudo's dead anyway. Unless...
Well, he does land 1, he lands 2, he gets the regen, he's under the turret, and Kitsuo can't chase further. I told you, TDS. I told you the sustain from that Ravenous Flock can be tough to deal with, and Kitsuo has to give up on the play after getting snagged by a Never Move. Zyko going a little bit deeper, could kill Sagewabe here, gets the barrier, blows the ignite. Zyko's going deeper, and he will take him down. Zyko with a kill, and he doesn't drop to the turret. Steadfast presence, just too tanky.
Wait, Psycho is still alive. Okay, he gets 2.
I mean, this is nuts here, as another one does go over to Vaken, and that was a hell of a trade bot lane. It's 2 for 1 for CCGG.
You know what? NACL champions for a reason. They know something we don't clearly, and that's why the dive ends up working out that well. As BBQ Chicken, I think, ends up getting the Scar Crab as well. 2 kills bot lane. They don't go to Scary Jerry, which probably is the biggest positive difference that peak performers can take out of that, right? But you lost out on the trade top lane. Now Zamudo has has Ninja Tabai. I don't remember the actual name, but Ninja Tabai. And then you have kills in bot lane for a pushing 6 that is already winning the bot lane. So this is one of the worst scenarios possible for peak performers.
Yeah, I mean, the lane that's going best is Robbie Bob in mid lane. He's got the XP advantage, he's got the level advantage, and the CS advantage, so he is finding good angles to just keep Mini pushed in, but it's not enough to offset the rest of what's going on around this map. Really great aggressive angle there from Zyko to just keep that play going bot, and earns them 2 kills in the extended play.
Yeah, but this is a great thing about watching Psycho and engagers, right? Like, he knows how to thread the needle and force some of those engages that you think that maybe were not work out, but ends up working out quite well. That's why a lot of people just want to see him play on those champions, and why having Scary Jerry on something like the 6 feels like enables him perfectly for that.
Absolutely. Some of the top prospects we have here in North America right now, showing why they have gotten those titles. Meanwhile, fight breaking out in the top side. Vaken taking a lot of early damage. Will smite down one of the grubbies, but will drop. And Kitsuo doesn't get hit by the Never Move. He doesn't have flash. He's waiting for flag and drag, but will get executed by Mini before he can use it. It's a jungler for jungler trade. 2 grubs for 1 to CCGG.
Yeah, the flag comes through, but the drag doesn't. And a kill for a kill, and especially for 5 mini, I think that one of the better traits that you can go for. Yes, you lose out on someone like BBQ Chicken, but realistically, Anudir at this point, especially with the gold lead that he already has because of the farm, it's not a bad trade to end up giving. And you gave the Grops, the 2 Grops anyway. So in general, the overall gold body is just that much better for CCG Glorp. And you keep on seeing these traits in the top lane. Samud is just forcing so well onto Aldarim. And if a little bit more aggressive, maybe could have forced the ultimate out or something like that.
Yeah, I talked about this a little bit in Champion Select. This is one of those big lose conditions for PP, is if Zamudo starts rolling in the top lane. That first kill was on a knife's edge, but the fact that it went to Zamudo, I think, has really colored this laning phase for probably the rest of the game. He's going to keep Alorem on the back foot. He's got himself about a 10 CS lead. He's keeping control over the wave, got those steel caps to avoid taking too much damage back, and I just don't see a good path for Alorem to get out of this without Kitsuo's intervention.
It feels like you have to put way too much attention up there in the top lane, and in the process you're losing out elsewhere. As Mini doesn't have flash.
Nice crushing grasp there on the 5 mini. Kitsuo goes forward, and that will be an execution completed. The veteran mid-jungle duo for PP punishing the relative newcomer from CCGG, and this will give them some time to push.
And realistically, I like the decision there. We were talking about trying to help Aldarim and maybe even bot lane, looking at how the situation is going. But realistically, you have to put your X on the plays that is working out. And Robbie is winning the lane, he's pushing his advantage, he's putting a lot of pressure on 5 mini, and one of the big important differences that we talk in draft as well was the magical damage overload that CCG Glorp has. And the fact that your main physical damage there is taking so much of a beating in the mid lane and is losing out this heavily, means that for a while you're going to be so dependent on the 6 and on Zamudo. And itemizing against them is not that difficult considering the options that you have present. So that is probably the win condition for peak performers. As bot lane dive. Again.
Yeah, Vacant looking like he wants to take this dive. There's going to be CC immunity coming out of Vacant nice and early just to be able to outrun the Leona ultimate, and they'll execute Sagewabe. They catch him between the towers and chase him down, but Robbie now coming in for the collapse, going to get punted out by Zyko. Good heads-up play by him just to make sure the team's going to be able to get out here. Maybe greeting for this control ward, though. I think you can let them have vision in their own lane brush just to make sure you get out of there without giving up another kill.
Robbie comes so confident down there saying, okay, I'm gonna get my kill there, and then out of nowhere Hummer just pushes you away and you're not able to do anything. That's a really good dive that they are able to pull off, so easily done. And at the end, another advantage for the side of CCG Glorp, and they are close to taking down the turret. Probably will be able to collect it before the plates fall down, and that's one of the huge advantages out of the 6. And you can see here the freezing potential by Zamudo. Aldarim suffering a little bit more.
Alright, definitely having a bit of a tough time up there. Freshly unretired up there in the top lane, and on his first game back on the Renekton. So far having a difficult time up against a difficult opponent, as we do get the pause here, so probably jump back over to our cams before too long. Do want to call out Robbie Bob's 2-0. He's got the Blackfire Torch already completed, one of the first legendary items done, and now already unpaused. So already back into the action, and already seeing 5 mini get hit by that spiraling despair. We're on a freeze frame here. It'll come back. At least it usually does. And I see a Q flying out. This might be a kill for Robbie Bob.
Yeah,
you want to take an over-under here?
So I think that may be a kill. He has a Q, and I think he also has the snipe. So if it's not enough damage, there may be enough with the snipe Q combo to try and be able to pull the kill. But because of the freeze frame, it makes me think of one of those memes where it says to be continued. It's not enough with the damage. It's flash out there. And force ultimate as well. You're going to get multiple plates here as Robbie Bob, and able to get pushed away, yes, by Psycho, but the general idea, the fact that you get the flash out of the way, you get so much more gold, and you're also making the Smolder lose out on so many minions is quite important. He is a champion that depends so heavily on his passive that making him lose minions, making him lose straight, means that he's going to take longer to reach that passive point that can carry a game.
Agree with that for sure. So now the Dragon going to potentially be the target here for CCGG. They would like to get the Lizard for themselves, and they've already got plenty of members in position looking for a punish on peak performers trying to approach. Kitsuo making a wise choice to just move up for the grubs. He could get himself up to 4 here with a full clear on them, and it's looking like he's going to get the chance to do that. Robbie Bob, the strongest of the peak performers, already covering.
Yeah, and because of the difference in leads in multiple places, it means that it's going to be a trade for objectives. Weirdly enough, it's such a late dragon when you think about it. 11 minutes for the first dragon of the game. That means that Soul will not be an actual factor until later on. So probably going to be something that most will not keep in mind and not make almost anything out of it. And it also means that the objectives around the Grops, the Herald, and also the fights around that area may define a little bit more of the game, as a little bit of a good trade for Alorim there, taking quite a good amount of damage onto Zamudo.
Dardoch and Kitsuo are here. They're going to look to see if they can find the shutdown. TP already being channeled by Scary Jerry to cover. There's going to be the demonic ascension thrown down by Zamudo, and already the peak performers are on the back foot. Kitsuo going to get knocked into by Zyko. They're going to get right onto Zamudo, and they execute him with the Cataclysm. A punt out onto Alorim is only going to buy him a couple of seconds. Dardoch going to be able to stun up Zyko and create the space for his teammates to escape. A beautiful bouncing bomb from Scary Jerry will get a trade kill back, and it's a 1-for-1 so far. They're not done yet, though. They want Zyko. They want Scary Jerry as Dardoch flashes in for a solar flare, does not connect, but Robbie Bob is here. Great dodge from Zyko on the spiraling despair, just might save his life. Zyko dipping and dodging out of every skill Robbie Bob throws and keeps himself alive. CCG Glorp win the fight.
And that is such a good teamfight victory coming in by CCG. Such good sidesteps by Zyko there, evading that and setting up his success for the team as well, because Robbie Bob flashes forward to try and stop the kill from going through, and that means that they are able to survive and bait Robbie Bob. Gets a shutdown, you get multiple kills, probably will get a second turret, and this is 2 5-plate turrets. So there's so much gold injection onto the side of CCG Glorp, and even though the Jin gets a little bit of free time down there in the bot lane, it's just so much better for the side of CCG Glorp, and maybe they won't stop. The Poppy is down there, and Zyko does like to go for plays.
And those mechanics right there are why Zyko is the #1 support prospect outside of the LCS right now. He is looking incredible in this game. And the fact that he doesn't go down there super early and blows so many abilities from his opponents trying to just finish off the kill is such a big factor, tipping the scale in CCGG's favor during that fight.
Yeah, it's such a good notion to see out of Zyko, but it's something that we've kind of come to expect, right? Like, they are not the #1 bot lane for any other reason than being that good, and it works out so well there. They get so much value, and maybe a little bit of a attempt here at Zamudo. No ulti.
Zamudo face checking into Alarm. He's got the demonic ascension though. We'll throw it down. Kitsuo used the flag and drag to get into the pit, so he doesn't have a way to get back out of it to be able to finish off this kill. Coming on in with the Cataclysm, a little bit of extra burst damage, but Zamudo's just draining him all day long. This skill will not run out as long as somebody's in range. Continuing to heal, continuing to drain, and winning out the play again. Kitsuo stuck on the wrong side of dodge, and he will fall. Peak performers lose to CCG Glorp with the double kill to Scary Jerry.
Yeah, and it's really looking like the bot lane is really making the difference here. 4-0 for Scary Jerry and 2-1 for Zyko, without counting the 5 assists that he's been able to achieve there. But the plays that they've been able to go for all over the map, and also the setup that they've been able to find, is so good to see. As 5 mini probably going to get collapsed in here, probably dope even.
Yeah, going to use Mom for the heal. Here comes the solar flare. Dardoch nearly stealing that one. We'll give it over to Robbie Bob. We'll take 5 mini down again. And Robbie Bob now more than ever the best hope for this team, is Zyko looking to make a play on him. Gets feared back away. Robbie will be able to create himself the space, but without Spiraling Despair, even maybe with Spiraling Despair, I don't think he can take down this Poppy. The Locket already completed. The Merc Treads there as well. This is a tanky support.
Yeah, it's someone that can take quite a while before he dies, and really good preemptive use of the Steadfast Presence does end up dying there, and everything is just working out that they know about this. Zyko has flash. Yep.
Oh, yeah, moving in. Robbie Bob, that's a big shutdown. It goes over to Zyko, maybe the wrong Yordle, but going to hurt peak performers regardless, as they lose out on their most important member at this stage in the game.
You know what? I like the bot lane dynamic where both the AD carry and support are fine with giving each other kills. They are sharing them really well, and it's working out well for them. They are really far ahead, and they are even pushing farther into the lane. Like, Rip Herald into mid lane, into bot lane push as well with the 6. this could be a 2-turret trade really easily, and they have even one more push with the Herald. So everything is just working that much better for them, as maybe the Udyr should think twice about going there. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Pathing himself away, making sure that he's not going to just throw himself right into a Leona stun. Here's another dive on a 5 mini. Good flash away, good flap, and the Dragon's alive. He's safe and secure. Meanwhile, inner turret's falling in bot lane.
Yeah, he may not have his first item completed, but he 100% is not dead. And that is one of the main things that he has to keep on being, because just looking at the rest of the map, based on the actions of their bot lane, on their jungle, and Zemudo as well, they are currently more than 5k gold ahead. That's already an important difference to have with losing lane in the mid lane with someone that was taking quite a good beating in the mid lane for quite a while. So the fact that it's working out this well for them is a really good image for the side of CCG Glorp, and the Smolder will eventually get to that point. He will be really strong. It's just a matter of time before he gets there.
Yep, and that top lane play really feels like it blew open the entire game here, just setting up the CCGG bot lane with such a fantastic lead. And they have taken that lead a mile. 4 turrets now to their name. Here's an engaged play being found. Zemudo going to be the focus. He pops the Demonic Ascension. Now going to be draining 2 members. And Sagiwabe will try to burst him down. Robbie Bob going to be the one who claims the kill. Will be a 1-for-0 for Peak Performers, but they used a lot of skills there. Sagiwabe's out of health, and now they have the inside track on mid lane. Peak Performers going to try to fight their way back in, but this is very dangerous.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they... so now with 4 members, they probably will be more willing to try and force it. And Zemudo ends up getting pulled into a position where he was forced by 4K.
Oh, flash stun from Zyko, found onto the priority target, and Peak Performers are left scrambling.
Yeah, such a good play, and it's Psycho once again looking at the angle and immediately collapsing onto Robbie Bob. He kills the strongest member, and now 5 mini maybe getting collapsed here, but it's not going to matter. They are ready to go for that play, and maybe Sagiwabe needs to be extra careful here with the members around them and the damage from Scary Jerry.
Absolutely does manage to clear out the wave here. We'll buy them a little bit of time. Zyko coming in on the side engage. Dardoch trying to lock him down. Here comes the Cataclysm. They've got Zyko right where they want him. And Alorum will be able to finish off the kill. Peak Performers pick off another. CCGG getting a little too complacent with their lead. Giving a little bit back here and there. Can they interrupt 5 mini? They do! Yep. And this is a 1 versus 3. This dragon is doomed.
It's not looking good for the little dragon. 1-3, and really 2 really good plays coming in from the side of CCG Glorp. Catching out Psycho, that was forcing himself a little bit more, a little bit too much there. Like, he legitimately thought that he was going to be immortal and pays the price for that. And also collecting the kill onto 5 mini, another important small addition to the gold. There's still quite a bit of gold difference between both of these teams. But it's important that they are able to find this small place and try and put themselves in a spot where they can try and fight for the next dragon. Because it is going to be Ocean Soul, and against someone like Zemudo, you do want to take away any sort of healing potential for him.
And this feels like it was a lifetime ago at this stage of the game, but it's really interesting to me to see CCG Glorp prioritize the dragon over the second spawn of Grubs.
Robbie Bobby's dead.
But it does not look like it's mattered at all. Meanwhile, though, a collapse in a mid lane. It's going to end up being a cross-map trade. Robbie falls, but so does Scary Jerry. And Scary Jerry was a shutdown, so you got to call that a win for Peak Performers.
No, it's a super win because they also get the top lane turret. So they get both the top lane turret gold plus the kill as...
all right, Bacon looking for something. They're trying to 2v4 this, and it looks like it's working. Yeah. Zemudo in the middle of everybody with the Demonic Ascension gets it onto 4, and 3 members fall for the Peak Performers. Vacant and Zemudo taking on all comers and coming out on top.
Yeah, it turns out Zemudo is actually strong enough to take that down, and it means that now that Scary will come back, there is a Baron to just spawn, and it means that it's going to be for the side of CCG Glorp. They are strong enough to kill multiple members, they are strong enough to push their advantage as much as they can, and it's not looking like it's going to stop. And for the side of Peak Performers, the avenues to try and come back into this game are becoming smaller and smaller. They had really good plays in general, killing Scary Jerry in the mid lane, trying to find small picks, but as soon as a pick goes and appears, it just doesn't look like it's going to keep on happening. Like, this is the initial pick that they find onto Scary Jerry, a slow and mobile mage that when using the flash means that he's going to eventually die. Then when they get the shutdown, I think that you need to disengage this. You cannot force another engage here, because look at the health bars. 3 members are below 50% health. There's no way that you can try and win this, even if the Udyr is alone, because someone is going to get traded, and that opens up space in the map. And I feel like a little bit too much overconfidence with the members means that they are going to lose out on the trade, lose out on the Baron, and also lose out on one of the best chances you had at coming back into the game.
Absolutely, you're losing multiple members there. As I was calling out earlier, it was strange to me that CCG Glorp opted to give away the second spawn of Grubs, but peak performers getting to 4 has not mattered one bit. They've not gotten more than 1 turret across the entire map. They have not gotten any breathing room in the macro game to actually use that turret pushing power. Zamudo and Robbie Bob in a one-on-one. Robbie wins it out.
Wait,
He's burning down. Will he drop? He will not. Stays strong. TP's back to the base, and now going to be looking to join this team for the upcoming brawl.
Yeah, and these are small losses that CCG are finding on the sides, right? The fact that they are not able to get those kills in a better manner means that they are not able to close out the game just yet, because with the goalie that they have, with the 5 members, or at the very least a 1-4 pushing into the base, that could have been such an easy inhibitor. Scary's in such a weird spot here.
Yeah, Scary Jerry seeing Kitsuo on the side. Kitsuo going to look to take that fight. Gets knocked out of the right side. Now going to go in with the Cataclysm. He gets blown up in the one-on-one. And Alorum gets punted out. Dardoch left out to dry here. Now going to have
he doesn't want this.
towards the rest of the team. Psycho leading the charge going forward. Scary Jerry going to be doing the same with the Satchel charge. Knocked back by the Steadfast Presence and taken out. Meanwhile, Zamudo is TP'd into the back line. Now gets the Demonic Ascension back just in the nick of time. Advancing forward, detonating onto 3. A shutdown goes through to Alorum, but that is just a small price to pay for CCGG getting the ace. They're going to crack open the base.
They are going to break everything open. They may have lost a member, but they are pushing onto the base, and guess what? They have a 6. That means that their potential to take down turrets is going to be quite quick, as it's only Kitsuo and probably Dardoch coming up really soon. But look at that, 1 turret already down, and the next one may be really close to fall down as well.
Yeah, focusing down. Here's going to be the engage coming through from Dardoch. Pulled back away by the Swain yet again. And Zamudo,
they're buying time.
Man of the hour, the one to look at. Completely untouched. Scary Jerry going to be in much the same condition. Psycho's lost some health, but that is perfectly fine. That's his role on the team. Just a front line for the rest of these carries. And let's see if they're going to take the second fight back to back. No recalls necessary. Scary Jerry solos out his lane opponent on the other side. Alorum getting kited to hell and soon to be hitting the ground. Zamudo flashes in, connects with the never move, and CCGG are just stat padding at this point. They're going to close out this game number 1.
Yeah, it's all to try and make their stats look better. They do kind of need it, considering that they lost the game, but so far, what a game 1 performance by CCG Glorp, and a little bit of our question marks surrounding the draft, right? We're kind of blown away immediately, especially with the mid lane question mark, right? Having 5 mini as your only physical damage dealer, but then you look at what happened bottom and what happened top. Complete domination by the bot lane from CCG Glorp. The damage by Scary Jerry pretty much shows you what happened, but then crucially as well, it's just the consistent pushing potential that they went for. Sagewabe never got near any turret at all or anything like that because he was consistently pushed. And then on top lane, because Zamudo won that level 1, everything kind of just fell over as if it was dominoes. So it just meant that it was kind of impossible for the set of peak performers to find an angle to put themselves back into the game and stop the onslaught from these mages.
Yeah, I like some of the looks from Kitsuo here early on, but it feels like there were definitely big moments where Zyko and Zamudo were both able to just put a damper on those immediately. The early bot lane plays where Zyko's just able to continue to force and set Scary Jerry up to be incredibly ahead and set Sagewabe up to be out of the game entirely had huge implications for the rest of the gameplay. And then up on the top side, again, there's another moment where Kitsuo finds a solid gank. They take out Zamudo. It's looking like it might be a turning point, but those dodges from Zyko staying alive for so long, turning the play back into CCG's favor, it just means the game's over.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't. I'm not sure if I would call it just overconfidence in some of those plays, or just simply getting outplayed, right? Like there's a slight differences that could have made some of the plays work out for peak performers much better, and maybe the game looks much different than what it ends up looking like. But at the same time, like they were forcing too much in certain situations, and it just felt like CCG Glorp had a better handle on what they could go for and what they couldn't. Obviously, there were moments that were kind of weird, but just looking back into those initial tower dives in the bot lane, right? Like Psycho went in knowing the angles that he needed to go in for, and it worked out. And even in situations he didn't even die. So he understood the limits that he could go for, and the team was willing to follow up until a certain degree, and it worked out so well for them.
Definitely did here, and that is what we're going to be looking to see change coming into game number 2. The peak performers gonna need to have a firmer hold on the early game. I like some of the looks we had coming out of the jungle there, and the mid lane was very favoring towards Robbie Bob. Yep. But need to see those side lanes shape up or get some additional attention from the mid jungle to make sure that they're not going to fall this far behind. We're gonna throw it to a quick break here, get a quick word in from Pro Comps, but we will see you on the other side as we get into game number 2.
Quick shout out to ProComps, our sponsor and a game changer app for the League community. This isn't just like the other tools. It's your personal draft coach, perfect for both teams and solo players. In fact, you can pair it with any other app you use. ProComps stands out with features like custom champion pools, personalized tier lists, and live draft advice. Think of it as having a virtual coach and a strategy toolkit all in one. They offer real-time champ and ban recommendations. They already have over 200,000 downloads and thousands of daily users just like you. ProComps is user-friendly and totally free. It is a no-brainer to at least give it a go. Download ProComps now and you'll experience a whole new level of drafting power in your league games. Go to procomps.gg, download it from Overwolf, or click the panel below on our stream.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League, where we have got the Peak Performers down 0-1 up against CCG Glorp, looking to fight back and take us to a game number 3. 10 champions, fearless off the board. See how the draft is going to shake up coming into game number 2, TDS.
Yeah, and important champions taken out as well, right? Like, obviously, let's take away the Swain and the Renekton that I don't think either of them care that much for, but the Styx taken out, you have the Hui as well taken out, Smolder taken out, the Jhin taken out, the Poppy taken out, the Leona taken out. Actually, quite a few champions that are not only meta, but are played quite a bit by both of these teams. So now it's going to be important seeing the dynamic that it's going to change up here. Will they open a little bit more mages in the bot lane, like something like the Syndra, or will any of them be able to play something like the Seraph that we saw as well last week? So it's going to be fun seeing what the dynamic is added onto now the Fearless draft, and also what the supports will look for, because Poppy and Leona are kind of two of the most played engaged supports, and now you're kind of stuck with Rel, Nautilus, and Alistar. And if Rel is taken out, I want to see who goes for Alistar and who goes for the remaining one. The Nautilus and the remaining one, I mean.
Yeah, well, it could be an interesting one to see. We'll find out if we get to see some old classics like the Rakan make a bit of a return as well. We will find out. It's definitely been a support-free ban phase so far, at least in the first phase of bans. The second phase did see that Alistar taken off the board last time. See if that stays true, and if Peak Performers are going to be moving over to the blue side. No, it is the same side. So Peak Performers opt to go red again for game number 2. So they've got something cooking. They like their ability to get a final counter pick here. I would assume they want to give it to Robbie Bob. You want to get this guy on as dominant of a mid lane matchup as you can. That feels like it's the biggest mismatch on the map for them, and it's one that they really need to take advantage of coming into this second game.
Yeah, and it's what pretty much was making them be as effective as possible in that first game, right? Robbie Bob winning that in the previous game, able to make the most out of those level 3 to 5 trades, also forcing flashes out of 5 mini, as well as even with the help of Kitsuo getting a kill. So that was a place that really was looking the best for Peak Performers. And if they want to replicate successes from the previous game, that's going to be a place that they need to find as well success on.
Completely agree. So Robbie Bob, eyes on you for game number 2. We're going to get into the picks and bans here once again. I wouldn't expect to see too many big ban changes. The bans directed at Robbie Bob were solely the Syndra in game number 1. They banned away the Scion, then directed at Alorum, and the Kaisa directed at Sagewabe. See if CCG Glorp want to keep those bans the same. Peak Performers took away the Yone, the Aurora, and the Ashe, just to try to take away some of those generic first pick power picks. I think that's a fine recipe. If you're going to drop one of those bans, I would suggest dropping multiple of those bans to give yourself first crack at multiple of them, as I do think those are pretty easily, some top 3 champions there that you would not want to give over to the enemy team.
Yeah, and especially considering the 2 of those champions are mid laners, technically speaking. So if you want to put someone on a winning matchup and free up themselves to be one of the best performers in the game, Robbie Bob can play the Aurora and can play the Yone. So I don't think that it's that mad of an idea to leave open either of the 2 and want to send Robbie Bob into any of those matchups, because he can really perform really well. That being said, it is leaving the risk of Zamudo being able to play one of the 2, because 5 mini I think can play them as well, but then Zamudo I would assume can also play any of the 2 matchups. So that is also a risk that you're leaving, and putting Alarim in another situation that may be a little bit sticky for him. But in general, I think that that's something that you have to look for, because I don't think that crippling yourself for Robbie Bob or crippling yourself for other members is going to be that ideal, especially when you have Robbie Bob in the mid lane.
For sure, as I do see the draft has kicked off. I see a highlighted ban box in the upper left, and they're going to keep that Kaisa ban, so far sticking to their guns from game number 1. And if they do take those exact same bans, what first pick are you probably prioritizing here, TDS? Do you think you take a first crack at jungle?
Well, in the jungle there is the Sejuani, which wasn't looked at. That is a good option to try and go for. Rel as well, which I think could end up being a contested pick for both of the supports. And I think Psycho's Rel is one of those champions that you have to be careful about, because he's really, really good at that Rel as well. So it could be something to consider. There is the option as well to try and look for an AD carry early on if you think that after the 6, the Jhin, and the Ashe, the pool of AD carries fall down quite a bit. But I think Scary Jerry is one of those players that you can also pick for later, and he can deliver as well. And then there was the situation where they banned the Orianna and the Ari as second round bans in the for CCG Glorp. So I think that maybe that could be also another champion or champions that they can look for in the first rotation. I would think Sejuani probably is the number one that I'm thinking of, or Skarner actually. Skarner could also be another option to look at.
Yeah, definitely another powerful one. I like the idea of that first pick Rel, though. When you've got Zyko on your team, I think that could be totally fine. Would not mind seeing that here. We'll find out what their first choice is going to be in just a moment or two here. They've got their selection available. Look at the Orianna for 5 mini, just something safe, knowing that Robbie Bob is probably going to counterpick you.
Yeah, and it's something that was banned in the second rotation from the previous game as well. So trying to take it as early as possible, trying to give them that comfort as early as possible, and then playing around it as best as they can. It does mean that now peak performers could technically pick the counter pick for Robbie Bob earlier and leave Alarim for that counter pick later on in the draft. The Ari looking to be the hover and potentially the pick. And I'm kind of curious if CCG Glorp will go for the Orianna Nocturne combo now that Orianna is already picked here.
Yeah, I don't hate this at all. I think you get to just go in and make your counter pick right here, right now, and then you get to hold the counter pick coming in later in the draft.
Yep.
You know, we talked about how it's not generally Alorum's bread and butter style. He likes to have those blind tanks, and they could still go for that if they want and try to get a counter pick in the bottom lane or in the jungle, but he definitely has some champions in the back pocket that he could go for as well. You think about stuff like the Urgot that he's played in the past. He used to be a big on-hit Nico guy. I think that build's kind of dead, but still something I associate with Alorum, so I wouldn't surprise me if he had something else cooked up.
I can agree with that idea, and I think that maybe is something that the side of peak performers can play with, as Lucian getting covered, and if they go Lucian Nami here, that could be scary for Sagawabi Dardock. Now there is Lucian Milio as well as an option, but Lucian Nami, the everlasting combo that always can find a lot of plays working out, and for a bot lane that is as strong as the Scary Jerry Psycho bot lane, this can be something scary to try and deal with. That being said, I do think that Psycho is one of the stronger supports we have in the NACL, probably the best support. But one of the points that I think that he can definitely keep on improving on is that enchanter play. So this can be something that maybe peak performers can take advantage of, because it's not the best that Psycho has to offer. It's good, but not the best.
Yeah, and I think this would be a textbook like Ezreal Rakan, Ezreal Braum angle. They're looking at the karma, though, and they will lock it in. So similarly, similar in philosophy, they're going to look to just try to play safe, play at range, outpoke. A little bit maybe more of an aggressive option. You know, the Ezreal Braum, the Ezreal Rakan would probably just be using the mobility to make sure that they can avoid engagement full force. But Ezreal and Karma both going to be able to outrange and outpoke a little bit as well. Maybe trying to get themselves a little bit more of a strong foothold, give themselves at least somewhat of a fighting chance, perhaps, as they look to get bot priority for some of those early dragons. Now getting into the bans, it is going to be those junglers, the Nocturne, a really smart ban from peak performers to deny the Nocturne Ori combination.
Exactly. We talked about this, and certainly one of the most played ones as well at Worlds. When you have the Urana, the Nocturne feels like second nature to her, so the ban away comes through as well. Interestingly, though, the Vi wasn't hovered at all in the first game, and it's one of the most contested junglers right now when you look at how they want to play. And I think that the point-and-click potential against champions like the Ezreal, like the Orianna, even like the Ahri that have so much mobility probably could have worked out really, really well. Now the Gwen as well against Semudo, I would assume that there is another jungler ban here potential. Once again, Sejuani and Skarner are still available. You have things like the Sack that I think neither of the jungler would be scared to play either. And then you have Kitsuo that can go for things like the Viego or the Kindred if they want to go for another carry in there. But it is the Skarner, and there is not that many options remaining. And I think they're going to give Alarim the counter pick at the end.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Interesting that we see this Gwen ban here as well. The Gwen jungle, something that we got to see a little taste of last week. Interesting to see if that could be something that's prioritized. Looking at the Tom Kench, I mean, this would be an Alorum pick. This would be, or it would be Tom Kench support with Karma top. That's not...
Okay, I'm bored. Now I got bored.
Okay.
Now I got bored because it's Ornn. So it is Ornn top lane. But the Tam Kench is an Alarum pick. It would have been really fun to see, as this is also a Semudo pick, actually. The Olaf coming through could be interesting. The Gangplank, though, I think makes a lot of sense with the damage that you can deal and the barrels that you can play off with the distance. But Semudo has a lot of champions that he can go for. So there's nothing that locking down here could end up mattering that much as far as what you're able to accomplish and what he's able to do for the team. And after the previous game with the Swain, I think he can go for anything and try and show up with that. The Garen, and now it's the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to be the Garen, and now looking at what they want to go for in the jungle. I do think this is a good position for Kitsuo to be in for the peak performers. Mid-jungle, I think, was where they looked the best in game number 1, and now he kind of gets his pick of the litter, right? You can go for something that farms up and scales into the later game, one of those AP junglers, perhaps, to get a little bit more oomph in your team composition. Yeah, like the Zyra, like the Brand, or even AD, more AD-wise, you go for something like the Kindred, too. If you want to try to go over this composition and outscale them, now that the Xin Zhao's locked in, it feels like it's going to be very tough to try to go under them. But had they gone for maybe something a little bit more scaling, like a Kindred, they could have tried to pick Xin Zhao themselves and try to have a stronger early game. But I do think this is now a really strong scaling position if they want to get themselves something that will be competitive into the later game. Or you could go Kha'Zix. Okay, they're going Kha'Zix. Quacks, I'm sorry that you can't be on this game, my man.
We should send some notification to Quacks. Look
I'm
at
doing it right
performers. They want to play the Kha'Zix. Now, will it be Kitsuo Kha'Zix carrying or Kitsuo Kha'Zix being the bug that it is and getting splattered? That's the question mark that we want to get answered here, because early on, like, he does have great 1v1 matchups, and I think against Xin Zhao, even in certain situations, you can just completely dumpster him with your isolation passive and the damage that you can deal. But he is going to have some tough times into the late game team fights, not because it's impossible for him to find the angles, especially considering that there's kind of 3.5 squishes on the enemy team, but because the space that he needs to be able to find those targets is going to be difficult to find, and it's because of the amount of area of effect damage that there is on CCG. You have Shockwave, you have Tidal Wave, you have Garen E, you have Xin Zhao ulti, too many ultimates and too many abilities to kind of open up the space when the Kha'Zix wants to jump in. So he has to wait for a perfect time and have the support from both the Karma and the Ornn to be able to play around it.
Going to be a big timing challenge here for Kitsuo. Reminder, everybody, predictions are live. Go bet with your channel points on who you think is going to win game number 2, whether you think we're going to a game number 3 tonight, or if you think CCG Glorp will be able to close things out. A spicy last pick for peak performers, though, still finding a way to make use of this red side last pick, even though Robbie Bob got to counter pick immediately. And I think all in all, this has worked out well for them. It's just they had to kind of swing for the fences here a little bit with their jungle pick, choosing to try to win out in a 1v1 matchup and make sure that they're going to be able to make the most out of this superior range, superior poke, and all the pick power that they have coming into the later game. The Garen worries me, though. I don't know how you kill Garen with this comp.
It's weird. Well, it can be killed depending on how far ahead the Kha'Zix goes, right? Like if Kitsuo gets super far ahead, it's going to be kind of close to impossible to not allow for him to blow up almost everyone. Like Zamudo or Garen in general doesn't build that much health early on, nor resistances, so you're going to have some space to try and deal with that. And then you have 3.5 kind of squishy champions. You have the Orianna that can get blown up, the Nami that can get blown up, and the Lucian that can get blown up. It's mainly on this Xin Zhao as well that you have the push away to try and stop Kitsuo and maybe allow for him to not be the victim at the end. But in general, it just feels like Kitsuo has a good game and everything falls apart for CCG Glorp.
Absolutely here. So now got the spec delay to wait out, and then we will be on to the Rift for game number 2. I really do think this is a lot more comfortable position for Alorum. It does mean, though, that the responsibility is kind of doubled up on him. You cannot die to this Garen, and he's got a Xin Zhao at his back, so there's going to be a really, really strong early game duo coming at you. And if they get behind you on the Ornn, you're very, very likely to be able to be taken down. If you get shut out of this game, if Zamudo starts to develop a substantial lead, I think this is going to become a real nightmare in the side lanes for the peak performers.
True.
And it's going to cause a lot of their pick plans to fall apart. Definitely want to be on the lookout on that top lane, and if they can keep Zamudo contained.
But you know what happens when you're alone in the side lane? Maybe a bot comes around and then kills you because you're alone. So that could be a thing. And we know Zamudo can be victim to that as well multiple times. So that is something that we can never take away from the side of peak performers to try and take advantage of. But I do agree. Like Garen alone in the side lane against Valorant particularly, like it feels like there's so much situations for them to just take advantage out of that. and it's going to be difficult to not be just so much stronger than the enemy team if you're able to just get ahead so easily as Samudo. And then we're also kind of ignoring what in the bot lane as well, considering the big game that Scary Jerry and Psycho had previously. They can just come up so strong early on as well, get a huge advantage in the bot lane, and then you have a Lucian and Nami that is close to unstoppable.
Yeah, I just want to see Sagarwebby and Dardoch play this lane out gracefully, right? Keep your distance, farm up, get your Ezreal on 2 items, and then be willing to be coming into these skirmishes with hopefully a very strong Kha'Zix and a very strong Ahri. Mid jungle is going to be really good for the peak performers here. Great opportunities for Kitsuo if Robbie Bob gets this push to hunt around and see if he can find Vacant during the early clears. And you just need to make sure that you're not bleeding from the sides the way that you were in game number 1 to be able to enable that going through. So it feels like peak performers have really kind of read the situation after game number 1 and are trying to index into it rather than try to bandage it. Which I like to see, but it's certainly going to be a challenge here if picks don't work the way that you drew them up.
It's kind of a situation where you have to play for what your composition is made for, but at the same time you have to be extra careful about what the enemy has to offer. And I think especially because of the amount of damage that there simply is in general, like there's so many squishy champions and so much damage that you can go for that it doesn't really matter if you're able to just get it in general and make it work out.
Absolutely here. Going to be a lot more champions off the board if we do end up in game number 3, and these fearless game 3s, they get chaotic if you do reach them. Peak performers hoping to increase variance, I think, as the underdog in this sort of matchup. Zamudo, Scary Jerry, and Zyko going to make a lot of teams in this league the underdog, regardless of where the initial seeding for these two teams may have placed them. Big opportunity for the peak performers here to find another victory. If they lose here too, probably worth calling out. I mean, this is a second seed team that is going to start off 0-4 in game record, 0-2 in match record. They have had some tough opponents, don't get me wrong, but definitely not the start that peak performers were hoping for, especially with Dardoch and Alorum being former ACL champions.
Yeah, and when you look at strength of group, right, they have faced strong opposition, yes, but technically speaking, they are still missing both Polestar, which is considered to be the #1 team in this group, and then ISU, that has had a great start and has a good enough team to try and compete. So you're facing 2 teams already that took victories against of you, and then you're still missing 2 teams that are above you. If by off chance one of the lower teams wins, you're in a really tough spot as peak performers.
Absolutely here. Well, let's see if they're going to be able to fight their way back. We are ready to get on to Summoner's Rift for game number 2. Peak performers trying to take us to game number 3. CCG Glorp trying to close things out and move themselves up to 2-1.
And now everyone is starting on the level 1, so we're going to have a fun level 1 to start it off. Everyone going bot lane. Level 1 is a weird thing, I think, for most of these champions, but they do have the Ahri Charm, slow from the Karma Empowered Q, and potentially the CC from the Ornn as well. And it's only Scary Jerry. That is a killable champion.
Certainly is here. He is waiting on the backside of the Tri-Brush, but he gets hit by the first Spirit Fire. Does still manage to get himself away, but that was a nice little move there. Mantra Q comes out as well. They're just going to force Scary Jerry to hide out under his turret, and they just take a recall here. It's early enough. Dardoch would love to interrupt this. I don't know if he's willing to take a turret shot to do it.
Yeah, and doesn't have another Mantra Q to go for, so it's just going to be a little bit of a difference, a little bit more control early on in the bot lane, but not the biggest of advantages for the side of peak performers. And importantly, once again, vision for the side of CCG a little bit deeper than what peak performers were able to find. They get 2 wards instead of the enemy jungle, and they know where it's going to be a start. Is Kitsuno playing?
Oh, Kitsuo's out. They've got Throat Goat in, who is yeah, I don't know who this is. It's XDDAR is their Discord name. Not to dox them here, but so Yeah, I don't know who Throat Goat is. So he's Throat Goat for the purposes of this game. If they are somebody who the community would be familiar with, feel free to let us know in Twitch chat. But until then, it's the Goat himself.
Yeah, it's the Goat that is going. That at the very least means that it makes a little bit more sense for the Kazakh.
No, Alorum, what did I say?
Oof,
all right,
that's suffering. Yeah. But speaking on the Kazakh picks, right? Like, it makes more sense because now at the very least, it may be a Throat Goat special, right? Like, it may be a champion that he's more accommodated on and probably can try and carry on with. As good trade in the bot lane, Scary Jerry and Psycho being forced early on down here, and that's the advantage of the early Karma.
Yeah, for sure. Checking out Throat Goat's match history here. He's got a little bit Kazakhs in there.
Not that much.
Definitely a little bit more of the Lilias and the Skarners of the world. So, but has played a few games of it on this season, so we'll see how the performance is going to carry on over. He's going for that Dark Harvest, so certainly in a snowballing kind of mindset on this pick, hoping to be able to get involved early and take that further into the game, being massive for these skirmishes. The first clear, though, it's been pretty textbook top to bottom for both of these junglers, and it looks like they will round it out and potentially meet at this first scuttler, which I would say is an advantage for Throat Goat, especially as Sagewabe and Dardoch are getting the push of the bottom lane.
Yeah, they have the control, they have the also a little bit of vision to know if he's going to come there on the side, and that just means that it's going to be a much better trading potential. That's a lot of damage and a good trade by Sagewabe there. We're seeing them a little bit more active, which is good news for the side of peak performers. They need to have their bot lane be able to contest this effectively against them.
Yeah, the shift in from Sagewabe so aggressive here, and it looks like a 3v3 is in the cards. Psycho with the double bubble, though, is immediately going to turn the fight in their favor, and a flash in from Vaken will secure first blood to CCG Glorp.
And just like that, first blood going in the favor of CCG Glorp. Similar start to the previous game, a different lane though, and BBQ finding that first blood. He actually gets it without the flash. I'm pretty sure that he didn't need the flash there, but just preemptively securing the kill, I think fair enough. And this also means that they get to push the wave, they get to back really comfortably, and even if they lose the Scuttle Crab, which could potentially happen, although actually Throat Goat is backing there, this does mean that it's a good advantage early on to have as the side of CCG Glorp.
It was a good start for the peak performers bot lane. They had the priority. They were finding good trades, but Psycho with the double bubble just puts him in the dirt here. The lane's over.
Yeah, as soon as that bubble connects. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that connects because I don't think Sagewabe was going to flash or thought that maybe the barrier was going to be enough. But still securing the kill really well, and the double bubble just means that the difference was going to be enough to get the kill there. As pushing onto Samudo here, but there is a little bit of a Xinjiao on the side, and Samudo's healing enough here.
Yeah, I mean, Alarm is at full HP. He did recall and TP back pretty recently. He's got a cloth armor as well up against double AD. So he's feeling all right to just keep this wave shoved in, and Zamudo may have missed out on his opportunity here. I don't know when Alorum recalled and TP'd back, but Zamudo obviously didn't take the opportunity to match, and now he's kind of stuck on a Doran's shield, picking up waves.
And another good bubble there, and importantly, I think that he will have enough time, like now he's level 6, so he could go back here, TP back, and get with the damage that he has enough to go for the kill.
Oh!
He gets stopped. Yeah, he got stopped.
Tough stuff there for Zamudo, still not being able to get back, still having to wait and catch another wave. Psycho taking a big chunk here, Sagewabe and Dardoch not going to be dissuaded after the first blood. They still want to get some violence going in this bottom lane. And they have Throat Goat there for the backup, who's just camping around here, even starting up the Dragon. Kazakhs is pretty good at soloing that, as the Dragon is always isolated. He has no friends in the pit, but he is going to get found by Vaken here, so potentially a fight breaking out in the bottom lane.
They are going to try and force it ulti by Robbie Bob, so really want to get this going. Oh,
wow, flashing in, using the little moment of isolation they have, but Mini comes in with the shockwave and takes him out. Sagewabe going to be able to finish off one on the other side. Waiting on that charm cooldown is Robbie Bob. He got the reset of the Spirit Rush. Charm connects, but Sagewabe is walking away. He left the play, and so Mini will survive.
Yeah, Sagewabe decides to just go away from the play. They don't have enough damage because Robbie Bob didn't have enough mana there at the end, and it just means that they don't have anything to be able to kill Mini there. Doesn't even blow the flash, so that means that they get plates, they get a counter kill because it ends up being a 1-for-1, and it's not really a big advantage for big performers. Right now, it's 1k in favor of the side of CCG Glorp, and it's so much better for them with how they are managing this game.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. The play maybe not guaranteed to work, and Sagewabe's got a big wave crashing into bot lane. 2 plates, though, go to Scary Jerry and Zyko anyway, and the peak performers just looking like they are not on the same page for that one. They're going to wish they had that back, as it could have been another kill's worth of gold to try to keep them competitive in this early game. Broke Goat right back onto the Dragon, though, going to look to see if he can secure himself this one. I'm sure he got some Dark Harvest stacks, and it's better than nothing for a Kha'Zix at this stage.
Yeah, no, 100%. At the very least, you're getting something in your favor. Maybe not kills, but farm and stacks can work out for yourself. And because of the dragon that you're getting, you're also going to, at the very least, prompt a much better soul later on for your team. Like, Cloud Soul is not necessarily bad for the Kha'Zix, but if you're able to control the bot lane, get more dragons in your favor, you can try and get a much better soul, and that way make your late game be much more valuable.
Ain't gold lead. I want to call out Zamudo still hasn't gotten a recall. He's still sitting at just Orange Shield. 8 minutes into the game, has never TP'd.
He's waiting for the perfect time.
Yeah, and I mean, the perfect time might be right after this dive. Alorum's down to half HP, trying to retreat away, but Vacant might be able to take him down on his own. The slow is enough, but this is going to be plates over to Zamudo. Alorum doesn't have the TP yet. Robbie is coming up, but looking like might be all done for.
Honestly, considering the amount of CS and damage that Zamudo is doing to the turret, I think this is actually quite worth. Oh, Robbie
pulled back in by the shockwave. Yeah, he's going to have to blow it, though. Would have loved to use that aggressively, and meanwhile, there's Throat Goat getting forced out of his jungle, and this is with Dardoch going up top. He beat Zyko here, but peak performers are already losing on the play on multiple fronts. Some of their most impactful abilities are down. The Spirit Rush is down. This Kha'Zix ult is down, and they're just going to get forced out. They're going to lose everything.
They just simply have way more stronger members right here, and Robbie Bob by the edge of the ability there by 5 mini could have ended up dying there, but so far it's just working out that much better for the side of CCG Glorp, denying Throat Goat, denying Alarim, denying Robbie Bob to a certain degree here. And once again, as soon as they back or they kill Alarim here, now there's going to be so much gold injection onto Zamudo.
All right, big play opportunity here for Alorum. He will drop, but he will not get the return kill on a Vacant. He just manages to outpace it. Drops the Faker Broccoli emote, and rightfully so. He stays alive.
Yeah, and the saddest part, oh wait, 5 mini.
All right. 5 mini in the 1 versus 2. I mean, it's the story of game number 1 again, but this time Robbie's not even here. They give the kill to Throat Goat.
Well, you know what? On board. Throat Goat gets his first kill. He's on board. He can try and be the Kha'Zix that we all want him to be, or that he wants to be. But in general, top lane is just complete domination for Zamudo so far. Look at the gold lead, 1,300 gold in his favor. He just went back, so he probably has a full item already completed. And then you also have the difference in the jungle, a slight advantage for BBQ Chicken in a matchup that could have potentially been much better for Throat Goat. He's just simply running it around really, really well and doing so much more in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, you thought it looked like Alorum was having a tough time before. There's a whole extra stride breaker in Zamudo's inventory from the last time we saw that matchup. Things are getting a lot more difficult for him very, very fast. More important than that 1.3k gold lead is the fact that he's spent it for the first time this game. Still no boots, so Alorum will be able to outrun him in some degree, but oh boy, this is going to not be pretty.
Yeah, look at that damage already. Like, that already is looking quite difficult on them. And also bot lane is an interesting matchup because so far Sagewabe and Dardoch have been doing much more damage onto Scary Jerry and Psycho than in the previous game, but it's not like it's turning into anything meaningful, right? Like, no kills, no big turret play lead, no big minion lead either, so everything is just pretty comfortable for their bot lane. And since the top lane and jungle are waning, they just have much better control of the game in how they want to try and force a play around it.
Yeah. It's something we've heard Zamudo praised a lot for in this last NACL split, was just his ability to manipulate the wave and how well he's been able to do to be able to secure himself lane advantages, and really showing that this game. I mean, he took forever to actually get a recall off, and at first it looked like that was going to be a little bit of a bad situation for him, but he managed to just keep himself farming, and then get the push back, make a dive happen. And meanwhile, Zyko's getting collapsed on Throko.
Oh, wait, he's alive? He's alive?
With a fly mini, but Robbie Bob will be able to secure the kill. Now going back in, trying to play this aggressively, but Make It is arriving from the top side. And with Dardoch on the shielding, they will back away.
Yeah, the fact that Psycho almost survived there would have been so much disaster for peak performers, but they get the kill, they are able to find something, and nobody dies in the process. I think that's the biggest news for them, right? You get a victory, you don't lose anything, and you're able to also force a flash at a 5 mini, so this is another objective that they can try and go for when they want to try and collapse into the mid lane.
A nice play there from peak performers. They are down about 2k, but keeping themselves competitive here. Top lane, though, becoming a big issue, as we forewarned about before. Zamudo could just get this dive off. He's got the ultimate. Not choosing to use it there, but Alorum's time is running out. Bot lane starting to get into the engagement as well. They're calling over Throat Goat. This is about to be a gank. Can Scary Jerry and Zyko escape in time? Throat Goat coming on in, not going to be able to find anybody isolated, but Zyko going to be the first target. Stays alive, though. Culling going to get the trade back, and Samudo's arrived. Stride breaker and all, right on top of Dardoch to secure himself his second of the game.
Yeah, and I guess that having teleport advantage does work out really well for Zamudo. Teleports down there, pushes the wave anyway, so it's not like Alarin will get a big difference there. And then they also collect a kill for Scary Jerry and a kill for Zamudo, plus the Infernal Dragon, so extra damage. Really good teleport play over there by CCG Glorp, and utilizing their elites when it needs to be utilized. Really good play, really good force, and peak performers. They are trying to make things happen in their favor, but they are simply not finding the right plays at the right timings.
That has been their problem here. They get a trade back. They're kind of, they're exchanging as close to evenly as possible in kills, but they do lose the 2-for-1 there, and they also get no objectives off of it. Alorum not in a position to be able to capitalize. Robbie Bob not able to do much in the one-on-one in mid lane with all his cooldowns down. It's just ending up with CCG Glorp continuing to be in the driver's seat. Going to see with Rift Herald spawning up here pretty soon. Will peak performers try to make a stand for it?
Yeah, and it feels like one of the things that we mentioned in draft as well that is not happening here for peak performers is the movement from Robbie Bob, right? Like, he's not moving around the map, he's not trying to make a lot of plays happen all around. Like, he's just doing a really good job at pushing mid lane, yes. But we're kind of expecting to see more movement with a Throat God, with Robbie Bob, trying to collapse on multiple lanes, trying to put more pressure, because there is situations where they have that advantage, but they are not actively looking for it, as Dardoch trying to collapse on Psycho, but
it's another 3v3 here. Throko going to get snagged by the tidal wave. And I think that's going to put this play to bed. Scary Jerry executes him with a relentless pursuit forward. And it is once again CCG Glorp faster on the trigger pull, stronger in the play. They will claim the outer turret.
That tidal wave to stop the jump from Throat God, beautiful stuff. And they are going to get this turret. They are going to get the back for Scary Jerry as well. They are getting the turret down there in the bot lane. They probably will collapse to get this the Rift Herald up there in the top side. And Alarin, I think, needs to be extra careful about staying here with Zamudo. He probably dies.
Yeah, and he cannot stop this turret from falling. He TP'd down here to stop Zamudo's push, but 2 or 3 waves later, the turret falls all the same, as though the Ornn wasn't even there. It's a 50 CS lead to Zamudo in this lane, and he is just near unstoppable at this stage. Nobody's going to be able to answer him in the side lanes, and he's going to be a massive problem if he TPs in on the flank. Robbie Bob getting a play started, diving in onto Zyko, should be able to execute him down. Throat Goat arriving as well. Dardoch able to find the snare. The execution damage is there. It's 2 kills, shutdowns and all, going over to peak performers.
And crucially, finally finding 2 really important kills, blowing multiple summoners on Scary Jerry, and also getting kills on important members, right? You see kills on Robbie Bob, you see kills on Throat Goat, you see them trying to put more pressure, and these may be the mid lane turret falling down. But they needed to find this urgently, because I think the gold lead was 7,000 before, now it's only 4,000.
Yep, and it is largely concentrated in that top lane, where Zamudo's near 3k gold ahead. I don't, in some matchups, that would be a relief, but it's this Garen, man, and I don't think Ezreal and Ahri are going to be able to burst him fast enough, especially through that courage. He's going to just stay strong, tank through it, and be a huge damage threat, especially if he goes for a Sterix gauge or something for a little bit of extra tankiness. The fact that he's going full AD, maybe, just maybe, gives them a chance to pick it.
Yeah, I think importantly as well, they do have a Karma, which is one of the best champions to try and just kite around a champion like the Garen, right? So if you're going to try and play around this, try and just kite him out long enough that you're able to kill him. But it's easier said than done, as Zamudo is going forward by himself here.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a 1 versus 2, and he wins these all day long. Throat Goat's forced to retreat, Alorum the same. And Zamudo, up against 2 members, just forces them out of the jungle, and these kinds of scenarios are going to be the problem. Robbie not able to connect that charm, and that is his biggest, most important ability in the Spirit Rush, committed to see if he can make a pick on the Zyko.
Yeah, and with Valorim not close by, that just means that, okay, that's okay, nothing happened. With Alarim not close by, that's pretty much their only engage tool. Like, with no Auron ultimate and no usage of the Auron ultimate, or Alarim not being as close as possible to the fights, that means that they pretty much depend, hopefully, on Robbie Bob's ultimate to be able to force an engage. And if it's down, they have to wait until the cooldown is back up to be able to do any play at all.
They certainly do. And, I mean, it's a big ask to wait for this to come on through. Zamudo just going in on a Dardoch, thinks he could solo him. The CC coming on across for Alorum, but it's only buying time for the escape that will not come through. Vacant going to be able to come through and execute. Robbie Bob arrives to the play, but he does not have the Spirit Rush. So this play's already over. It's a 1 for 0. The pick on the Dardoch was successful, and even when you commit some extra abilities to try to save him, he dies all the same.
Yeah, and what is up with the game giving CCG Glorp Ocean Soul so that they can give advantages to their healing champions? Like last game it was Swain, now it's Garen. These champions already healed by themselves. They don't need even more healing in their favor. And Zamudo staying alive, putting pressure, trying to push the turret. The dragon more than likely will go in the favor of CCG Glorp and already making the stack happen. Even if they lost 1 dragon, they have enough to try and pull even more.
Winter's approach there for Alorum, so he is hoping to scale a little bit stronger. We'll have the Fimble Winter done before too long. Dardoch here to back him up. Is Dragon number 2 in the pocket of CCGG. Robbie Bob going to get a chance to claim some turret gold here. And, you know, as long as Alorum and Dardoch are successful in defending the inner turret, this is a solid play for Peak Performers to get more gold into their Ahri.
Yeah, I will say though, and we kind of forgot to touch on this, they did get 6 grubs. So it means that the split pushing potential of Zamudo right now is quite strong. And if they are able to reach turrets, at the very least they are going to make quite a bit of a dent onto the turrets.
Yeah, that is definitely what they're going to look for. And it's just a big threat in the side lane. The question of how you deal with Zamudo will be one that is omnipresent throughout this game, and Peak Performers, they're just working to get resources into them so that they can answer it appropriately. And a second item completed for Robbie Bob here. So much on his shoulders in this game. If he's not able to blow someone up, if he's not able to have successful team fights, it's just doomed. And once again, has to use the Spirit Rush defensively. And even that might not save his life. He gets comboed by the double knockup, flashing out, hit with wind becomes lightning, and Vacant takes down the Peak Performers carry.
So we thought that maybe without the Nocturne combo they couldn't force like that with the arena. Guess it doesn't. It wasn't even needed. They force a perfect ultimate there with BDQ Chicken finding the angle, and it means that it's an immediate Baron. There is a Kha'Zix still alive, but Zamudo can try and push him away pretty normally.
Yep, Throat Goat waiting in the wings here, doesn't have access to the teleport, going to need to use the leap, but look at this damage out of Zamudo. He's forced to retreat. And now with the E down, Throat Goat can't get in. He's got no blast cone. He's got no ability to jump. But now going to be the engage coming out through. Throat Goat nearly gets 1 shot, but it's Zamudo left on his own in the front line. Drops to Sagewabe as the Baron falls. Big shutdown to the Peak Performers AD carry, but the Baron is the cost.
But they do get the Baron buff. Zamudo dies valiantly. They do miss out on probably the most important Baron buff when you think about the pressure in the side lane.
True.
But it's fine. Like, I think they can make it work without the Baron buff on Zamudo. They did get, I think there was a slight shutdown on Zamudo if I'm not wrong. So getting some gold back, getting a little bit of pressure back on the map. But this Baron buff can be enough to try and push onto the base from Peak Performers. And realistically, there's not that much wave clear on the side of Peak Performers. So if they amount for a good push on the side of CCG Glorp, that can be much more detrimental.
Absolutely here. And 3 kills apiece on Robbie Bob and Sagewabe. is the best hope for the Peak Performers here. They need some real solid team fights coming out of these carries. 2 items is the spike I was waiting for on the Ezreal. He's got it now. Sagewabe at a very powerful point in the game. You can see they have the damage to work through Zamudo if they get a couple seconds with him. It's finding those couple seconds that's really tough. RobbieBob back onto the field here. Ooh. Charm not going to connect. He does have access to the Spirit Rush. Trying not to blow it too early. Broco getting collapsed on by Zamudo. Zamudo in the middle of 3, but they just can't produce the damage. Sagewabe going to have to land these kills, as is RobbieBob, but neither one going to be able to connect. Dardoch going to get culled down by Scary Jerry, and the fight is over yet again. Blinking health bars for Throatgoat means CCGG have control over mid lane.
Yeah, and it looks like Dardoch pays the price for the sin of their jungler, even though I don't think it's a sin. Like, he actually just Zamudo just came from behind and did all his health bar, and nobody could stop him. So it's not that fair on them. And
the Forge God coming on through. Alorum looking for the knockup, gets it onto Zamudo. They can chase him down. A flash execute from Throatgoat will take the top laner off of the fight, but there's no shutdown available this time. This is 40 seconds of a break from Zamudo for the Peak Performers. What can they do with it? The fight's getting engaged anyway. Shockwave back in. It only connects onto Alorum, but he is getting melted in the front line. Scary Jerry claims that kill. Vacant diving forward for more. Wants to get onto Sagewabe. Dardoch trying to help out his AD carry. Flashes back over the wall to stay alive, but he is not letting up. Vacant now inside the enemy base. Scary Jerry going to relentless pursuit over the wall in order to join him. Throatgoat waiting around on the flank. They need RobbieBob here. He's coming back from the bottom lane to try to join up in the fight as the inhibitor is going to start to be the focus. Peak Performers, this is your best chance to try to make a move. Zamudo not up for 3 more seconds. He lands the charm, but it's not enough to take out 5 mini. Throatgoat coming in on the flank. Will Zamudo try to TP to join the play? Throatgoat going to land some of those void spikes, but not going to be able to slow anybody up enough to be able to take the fight. Peak Performers let CCG go. The inhib is down, and nothing is claimed in response. RobbieBob hunting for a kill is taken down by Scary Jerry, and the map belongs to CCG.
They just have complete control over the map. They get the inhibitor, they get the kills. And you were saying about a break from Zamudo. Yeah, it's a break from Zamudo, but not from the rest of the team. They still have the damage to be able to collapse on multiple members and get multiple kills. And Throatgoat, even though he was finding the angle, and this is the thing that we're talking about with Kha'Zix, there's way too many abilities to control the Kha'Zix. Oh, it's Zamudo. He's by himself.
Zamudo's doing a little bit of old school Zamudo here. Remember Wildcard Zamudo? Yeah. Remember AoE Zamudo? These are those Zamudo plays, not so much the Dragonsteel Zamudo plays, but it does not matter at this stage. He is so far ahead. He can afford to get isolated and picked off once or twice. His team's going to get on soul point for it, and I mean, he doesn't even die that time. He just walks away.
Yeah, this is unhinged Zamudo, the one that can go for plays on the side lane and sometimes dies, sometimes doesn't. But
the one that picks Swain.
Always great to see. Yeah, oh, he lost on the blue buff, but it's okay. It happens. He's still alive.
RobbieBob down here once again, and I got to be critical of RobbieBob for this game number 2. I know his side lanes have been collapsing around him a little bit, but he gets this counter pick. He's really set up for a position to be able to kind of be the force through which this team comp runs, and when it comes down to it, he's had to use the Spirit Rush defensively consistently. He hasn't been able to land some of the crucial charms, and now the team finds themselves in a position where they're really struggling to fight back. Alorum going to throw down Call the Forge. Got hit by the bubble and can't recast it out. Vegas in with the combo. Shockwave back onto 2 members. It's a double kill to Scary Jerry. RobbieBob going to be the next member focused down, flashing back out to safety. Zamudo tanking up the Nexus turret. Sagewabe doing his best to stand and fight, but the Ezreal just does not have the damage. CCG Glorp showing up in the team fight yet again, dropping none of those this whole series long. One dies to the fountain laser, and actually Zamudo getting a little bit too cute with it. He's gonna lose a second, but the Nexus is exposed, and I think this game is all done for TDS. The respawn from Dardoch, the last second desperate fight attempt. It will not be enough, or will it? 5 minis out of mana. He goes into the stasis. One more auto will do it. The game's over. 5 mini executes the Nexus. CCG Glorp with a 2-0 win.
It was one more auto away. It was a little bit more damage onto the Nexus, but at the end they were having fun. Multiple members dying, Scary Jerry dying at the Nexus, then Zamudo also dying there. But they had complete control over that game, and you can really see just the difference. Like, it's a complete canyon of difference compared to Peak Performers. And yeah, realistically, it was like watching a hamster trying to find a lion at the end there. It's really difficult to find those angles because And this is the thing with Kha'Zix. Like, you may have a team fight composition to a certain degree, but Kha'Zix warps the way that you have to phase those team fights. He has to find angles, he has to find spaces, he has to find ways to make it work out as much as possible. But sadly, because of the way that most of the game was going and most of the fights were going, like, he had to find really specific angles. And it's something that you just have to suffer as the Kha'Zix. If you were any other jungler, you probably can play around that much better. Even the Viego. But as the Kha'Zix, it's really specific the way you need to play this game out, and Throatgoat wasn't able to find it at all.
Yeah, definitely a tough one here for Peak Performers, and their bot lane, I think, performed solidly in this second game.
Yeah.
You could see the damage able to be put out there by Sagewabe, and you know, this is not the right attitude to have, but if I'm on Peak Performers right now, I'm like, man, why couldn't these roster changes have happened a week later? If we come in here and we're up against Matata and Wino instead of Scary Jerry and Zyko, maybe, just maybe this series looks a little bit different, but very, very tough opponents in both side lanes for this squad, and they just steamroll them. They look like Dragonsteel all over again.
Well, realistically, just thinking in general, right? If this was the actual roster for the first week, I think that the seeding would have been 100% different, and the groups would have looked really different as well.
Yeah, I completely agree there. So we'll look and see if we can get an interview with somebody on this team about some of these changes and what it's like coming on together. But a great showing for them, a great first showing for this kind of new iteration of the CCG Glorp roster with their new bot lane. And their new bot lane, they've been together for a long time. They've been one of the most dominant forces we have here in North American Tier 2, and showing why here up against Sagewabe and Dardoch, some promotion hopefuls taken down by the NACL once again. And with that, I think we got vacant for an interview, so we're going to throw it to a quick break. So we will be right back. See you guys in just a couple minutes.
Awake to my voice and hear the call within. Embrace the fear inside. Surrender your mind to mine again. Close your eyes, have faith in me, and leave the light behind. You're never alone. Whenever it's gone, let the shadows take hold. You're never alone. Let the poison in. Feel the warmth arise. Close your eyes, have faith in me.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Champions League. We are joined by the victorious Vacant, aka BBQ Chicken Alert.
Hey,
Welcome aboard, man. Thanks so much for joining us.
what's up? What's up?
All right. Well, a
Uh,
great showing in first game with the new roster here. I mean, that's got to be the question we start off with. What kind of happened in this last week? You guys have got Scary Jerry and Zyko in the bot lane now, kind of coming in with a little bit of a revamped roster and maybe one with a little bit more hype behind it for how far you guys could go.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I showed up to scrims one day. I had a different bot lane and we won, so I wasn't really complaining. Yeah, I'm never happy, or I'm never unhappy with a winning bot lane. So, Yeah, I mean, these guys have played a lot together. I'm pretty sure Zyko and Mr. Jerry himself. So having a very well-versed bot lane is always a treat.
Okay, and trying to follow up on that, like grab onto the question as well. I'm kind of curious how your expectations as a team changed with this, right? Because obviously going from not only a different bot lane, but to a winning bot lane, a consistently winning bot lane like them that have done a lot already in the NACL and the things like that. Like, does it change your perspective or where the team is looking at for it? Like before, was it maybe getting into playoffs and now it's maybe being top 2 or something like that?
Oh, I mean, for sure, it's free. What? Like if we don't win, I mean, I'm a failure. It's free, bro.
All right, looking free, looking free. Let's talk about the draft. Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I was gonna say, like, I've taken showers longer than that series. Like, that was clean, bro.
Okay.
Well, we love to hear it, man. So let's talk about the drafts a little bit. You guys flexed some picks around in game number 1 in particular. You end up taking the Udyr in the jungle, the Poppy at support, and the Swain in top lane. Was that the plan from the start? Were you guys kind of building it up from this as the draft went on? Like, what's draft planning like in that game number 1?
I mean, I can't leak what potential stuff could have come out of the flexes.
Okay.
But at some point, I was told I was playing Udyr now, and then I heard slightly after, oh wait, this champ got gutted this patch. So, I mean, like the champ is broken, bro. Any jungle is broken when you have 3 winning lanes. So like, I don't know. I could have played anything that game. But yeah, the flex picks just make it impossible to like get reasonable matchups. So, like, I don't know. Blue side stays winning.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious because you said 3 winning matchups, but I'm kind of curious how it is with 5 Mini, right? Because the other members and you yourself have had experience. I think 5 Mini is probably the lowest experience between all the members. So I'm kind of curious how it is playing with him as a mid laner, and if like he adds sap or if you have to grab him in some situations to try and prompt him up as much as possible.
I've played with a good amount of rookies. I'd say he's on like easily the upper echelon of like understanding the game with like a fresh perspective. Like he has like the innate shortcomings of like, you know, like he might not have perfect comms or might not know how to like take charge of a situation if that's on him. But he has like good matchup understanding. He communicates the things that he needs to, and he's just like a great addition to the team. I mean, he's not lacking in anything overt that leaves you wanting.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So in the Demacia group, you guys now move to 2-1. This is a group where the jungle role in particular is a little bit stacked. You've played against Kitsuo and Rapid already. Chad and Music still yet to be faced. Any thoughts on those upcoming matchups and how you feel facing off against teams like Polestar and ISU as the season goes on?
I haven't looked at all the rosters, but bro, jungle doesn't matter. It's season 14. Jungle is a relevant role. So like, hey, whichever jungler wins, bro, just hit tab, look at the lanes. I mean, it's a freak season.
All right, let's go. It's a freak season. All right, I love it, dude. That's every interview we have every week.
I don't know if you guys pointed this out. I did the least damage in the game in the Udyr game. Yeah, my role is so awesome. 5,755 Udyr damage, even when like Leona was counterpicked by Poppy. So like, yeah, S14.
Yeah, I love the fact that you were running around with your fire spirit form, and even then you still didn't deal enough damage.
I was trying to pad. You literally saw me. I'd walk up mid, tap R twice, like free 600 damage.
Yeah, there were multiple, and still then you were below Leona in damage. I think that's amazing in a way as well.
Yeah. Hey, jungle diff.
That's Leona stuff, though, for sure. 100%. I got to agree with that there. All right, Vacant. Well, we've appreciated you hanging out with us, man. Last word goes to you. Anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to say to those still tuned in?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to my team for playing so well and making jungle look good. Thanks to all my friends that showed up and just for chilling. And thanks to you guys for hosting the tournament. It's fun.
Absolutely, here. Well, loved having you here, man. Thank you, everybody who tuned in today. We're going to send you guys over to Ole Miss versus Skibbity Looksmaxers, which we are told is going to a surprise game 3. So you're definitely going to want to catch that one. Thank you, Vacant, for hopping on for the interview. Thank you, everybody at home, from myself, TDS, and Caddy on production. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.